Update. Would I be the a-hole if I go on a trip that my cousin organized on the same day of my father's wedding with a woman he started dating 2 weeks later of my mother's death? Original post. My 18 female father is going to marry his girlfriend next week, a day before my cousin's 21 female birthday. My mother died 4 years ago, and almost 2 weeks later, my father was dating that woman. I was grieving, and I had to tolerate a total stranger in the house. My father told me that he met that woman at work. The doubt that she has always been my father's mistress is always in my head, but I don't know. I don't like her anyways. My cousin organized a trip to the beach which will last a week. It was given to her by my aunts and uncle because she won a scholarship overseas in a college. My aunts and uncle won't go to the wedding. Some of my other cousins won't go to the wedding to go to the trip too. My cousin arranged the trip entirely on purpose to ruin my father's wedding since my mother was her godmother. My father was mad at her, but my cousin told him she's not going to cancel her trip for a second wedding. Or in her literal words by text, "I'm much more interested in seeing the grass grow than in your wedding." Today my father found out that I will be going to the trip too, and he's totally mad at me. He even cried telling me that everyone is punishing him for finding love. I asked him if my mother was the love of his life. They always used to say those kinds of things, and he kept crying saying that I don't understand because I'm too young. He says that every time I try to talk about something serious with him, even when I want to talk about politics or important things, it's his way of shutting me up. He says he just finally found love, his words. He said his girlfriend is the real love of his life. Good for him, I guess. My mother always said he was the love of her life until the last day, and because of his words, my mother was never the love of his life. I think I feel sad to think about how my mother would feel if she hears my father say that he finally found real love, when in my mother's eyes and words, he was her soulmate. Can you really find the love of your life in 2 weeks? I understand that grief is different for everyone, but who grieves spending Christmas with your new girlfriend and not with your daughter who lost her mother? He neglected me since that day even if I was a teen. Everything was always about how he feels and wants. I told him that I will go on a trip and I don't want to attend his wedding, and he kept crying. My paternal grandmother called me to pray and tell me that I'm being unfair to my father who just found love again. But I just don't want to go or be near him. I stopped being close to my dad long time ago, that my perception of what a father figure is has been almost totally erased from my mind. Edit. My parents didn't have an open marriage or anything like that. My mother always made it clear that she would divorce if she thought the marriage was bad or getting weird. I'm sure that in her eyes, she had a healthy and normal marriage. We were all shocked with the fact that my father introduced his girlfriend when we were all grieving. It's something no one understands to this day. My mother died really quickly from a virus/bacteria. She died within a month and a few days, and no one expected her to die. Not even my mother expected her health to get like this. She believed to the last day that she would live. The person who took the most care of her in the hospital was my grandmother. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Do what you want. If you don't respect the relationship, why would you want to go anyways? Besides, I get the feeling this woman was involved with your dad before your mom passed. Because who the heck moves someone in 2 weeks after their wife dies? A cheater, that's who. He's just mad that everyone sees through his BS. I wouldn't go either. She didn't move into the house instantly, but she went every day and stayed overnight. It was really uncomfortable. I always suspected that she was my father's mistress, but I never asked, because my father would deny it anyway. Trust your gut. You're probably right about her being the mistress. Unfortunately, I'm sorry for your loss, OP. Be with your family and let your dad sulk. He brought this upon himself. Gosh, he abandoned you when you were 14 years old to spend Christmas with his new girlfriend? Right after you lost your mother, and mind you, his wife? Not the a-hole, but he sure is. When Christmas came, he decided to go on a trip with his girlfriend without even inviting me, because I never liked Christmas anyways. I spent that Christmas with my mother's family. Wow, I don't know your father, but I hate him. You're not the a-hole. Go enjoy your trip. Not the a-hole. Who leaves their grieving child alone on Christmas? Then he wants to cry about love? He can kick rocks with his love. Now for the update. Thanks to the comments, that day I decided to talk with my father and ask him if he cheated on my mother. I got really anxious and just needed to know the truth because it was something that made me feel really nervous. After insisting in hearing him cry, he confessed to me that he had been talking and going to places with his girlfriend/friend for a while my mother was still alive and even before she got sick. My mother didn't know that my father had that kind of relationship, and it was all behind her back. He showed me some things his girlfriend shared in her IG at that time. She knew he was married. When my mother died, his girlfriend, at the time friend, approached him to comfort him. He didn't say exactly when, but I guess that obviously it was between those 2 weeks. I want to think it was the day my mom passed away, because it was unexpected and we were all too busy. My father told me that it was the first time they had physical contact, but he always felt guilty about his friendship with that woman. I'm not very familiar with the subject, but I think it's what people call emotional cheating. I only know that he kept it a secret because he knew he was doing something bad. I asked him if he and my mother were having marital problems, and he said no, not at all. According to my father, his friendship with his girlfriend was something he planned to keep as a secret forever when my mother was alive and healthy. Father told me that he thought he loved my mother until he kissed his girlfriend and decided that we only live once. So that's why he took her home just 2 weeks after my mom died and did everything he wanted with her. My father's logic was that his job gave him a week of mourning. So according to him, 2 weeks was enough mourning for me. I told him that while he fulfilled his fantasies, I was alone in our home. And he kept saying the same things like, "OP, you were almost 15 years old. You were already a woman. At your age, I was already working, blah, blah, blah." I don't think I'll ever get to that level of maturity to understand his mind. I asked him that if he thought about cutting off contact with his girlfriend if my mother found out. And he said something like, "No, I wouldn't cut contact with her. It was just an innocent secret, and your mother never found out." I told him my mother would cut off his balls if he heard him say that, and he started crying again. But anyway, all of this doesn't change anything. The result is still the same: a father who neglected his daughter. I said a lot of things to him. I've been going to the psychologist for years, so I know how to manage my feelings. But at that moment, I told him everything I've been keeping to myself, and he cried again. Isn't that weird? Cry when you're the one who screwed up? I only feel bad for my mother and myself. And for now, I warned him that I am going to rent the house to make money and cut off contact with him when he leaves the house with his girlfriend. He didn't complain about that, because at least he always agreed that the house is mine. I'm not going to leave him homeless or anything like that. I'm not going to his wedding. I'm not going to invite him to my wedding in the future either. I don't care if my future kids doesn't have a grandparent or anything like that. I think years ago I lost both parents, but luckily I have my family. I see myself as a person who had to mature quickly. My mother left me in charge of my father, but my father maybe decided to bury his paternal instinct next to my mother. Or maybe he never had one. He was always a regular father, so I don't care if I don't see him again. I don't feel anything for my father's girlfriend, but I just don't like her. Because I would never date a man who neglected his daughter, and she's going to marry a man like that. Anyways, we never argued and I don't hate her at all. I hope she's my father's final real love. There are people who commented saying that I was making my father look bad on purpose and that I was probably a brat who has a bad behavior, just because I'm a teen and my mother died. I don't understand what kind of education those people had, but being a teenager doesn't mean that we let ourselves be carried away by our feelings. Sometimes a minor can speak much calmer and in control than an adult, and that doesn't mean that I want to play myself as a saint. It's just how my feelings work. That doesn't mean I wasn't suffering because I didn't yell at him. Also, a random person posted my story on another subreddit making fun of me and saying that I'm making myself look like an angel. I know it's the internet, but it's sick to make fun of the people with the problems. I really don't know where I went wrong for my father to prefer to forget that he has a daughter. I don't know what I could have done wrong. Maybe the key was to yell at him and make a tantrum to get his attention, as some comments said, but I stopped caring long time ago. Your father is disgusting. He was cheating on your mom for years. No, at 15 you weren't an adult, and even if you had been, you were still his child, and you needed him. And where was he? Living it up with his girlfriend. You were right to tell him how you feel, and I would absolutely go no contact with him. He made his choice. I love how OP is too young and doesn't understand when her father wants to dismiss her and shut her up. But when she tells him off for leaving her alone, she was almost 15 and already almost a woman, and he was working at that age. Like, pick one, a-hole. I hope OP never has to speak to him again. He can take his too late crocodile tears and his home wreck her girlfriend with him on the way out. Yeah, that part. Of course, it kept moving the goalposts on OP about what she's apparently too young to understand, but old enough to go out and do. He's great at emotional manipulation, that's for sure. OP's dad is disgustingly selfish and self-centered. I'm glad a family took his stand against his abhorrent cheating butt. Cousin is a boss. I think she helped to give the rest of the family the gumption to tell OP's dad to go screw himself. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my friend's wedding because she uninvited me? Okay, so here's the deal. My friend, let's call her Sarah, and I have been tight since high school. We've been through everything together. Breakups, makeups, you name it. So when she got engaged, I was over the moon for her. Fast forward to a few months before the wedding. Sarah sends out the invitations and I'm psyched to RSVP. But then out of nowhere, she texts me saying that she's had to cut down the guest list due to budget constraints, and unfortunately, I didn't make the cut. I was devastated. I get that weddings are expensive at all, but to uninvite me after we've been friends for so long? Ouch. Fast forward again to the wedding day. I see all these photos in social media and it looks like a fairy tale. But here's the kicker. Sarah texts me later that week asking for money to help cover the costs of the wedding. Apparently, they went over the budget, and she is asking all the guests who didn't attend to chip in. I was floored. Not only did she uninvite me, but now she expects me to foot the bill for a wedding I didn't even get to go to? I told her no way. I refused to pay a single dime. But now she's saying I'm being selfish and unsupportive. Am I the a-hole here? Or is Sarah out of line for expecting me to pay for her mistake? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and I hope you know that. I would stop this friendship entirely. Send her a few laughing emoticons/gifs, and then block her. One of the tackiest things I've ever heard. Thank you for your support and understanding. It's been a roller coaster of emotions dealing with this situation. To add a bit more context, Sarah and I had always been there for each other, so her decision to uninvite me really caught me off guard. I tried to rationalize it, thinking maybe she was under a lot of stress or pressure to cut costs, but it still hurt nonetheless. I don't want to cut her off, as she helped me through some tough times. Is there anything else I can do in this situation? No problem. I normally don't advise people to troll people, but in this case, I would personally troll her in the most childish of ways with laughing emoticons and memes. Not saying you should. Wild guess, but you must have also helped her through tough times. So I'd say you're probably even or more than even. This friendship will never be the same. You will resent her for uninviting you. She will resent you for not paying. And focus on making new friends or spending more time with other people. Stop clinging to this fake friendship. No, you're not. Asking for money, especially from people who didn't get invited, is one of the most absurd things I've ever heard in my entire life. It's even worse. OP was invited, then got cut, then Googled at the wedding photos on social media, and then got hit up for money. I guarantee OP is the only uninvited guest who was also sent a demand for money. Otherwise, Sarah would surely get a clue when everyone refused to pay. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to go to AA meetings as a condition of my in-laws letting us have their second home and opting to move out of state instead? About 4 years ago, I developed an alcohol problem. It took over my life like it did for a lot of people during the pandemic. I was going through multiple boxes of wine in a week. What was honestly very shocking to me was that my husband didn't realize how often I was drunk, sitting next to him. When I first came to him to tell him I needed help, he was confused. I had done some effort to conceal my drinking, but I figured as my husband, he had to have at least known. Apparently not. 6 months ago, I finally started to seek help from a qualified medical professional. I tried an AA meeting and quickly learned that it just wasn't for me. I know it's great for a lot of other people, just not for me. I preferred to work with my addiction counselor and evidence-based support group led by a medical professional. My in-laws are aware of my problem. My mother-in-law wanted my husband to leave me and take the kids. They are both of the mindset that alcoholics have to go to AA. Otherwise, they won't get better. We've tried to explain to them that it's an outdated perspective that doesn't take into consideration the many alternatives. They don't care. We're finally in a better place and ready to find a long-term home. In-laws offered to give us their second home, but their condition is that I must go to AA meetings. As I've said, it is not for me. My husband agrees with me that it's a non-starter. The other part of this is the logistics of all that property exchange or buying, but this isn't about that. When we broke the news to the in-laws, they hit the roof. They were furious that we dare reject their offer, especially because it means that we will move away from them due to the cost of living here. We're going to move a state away, a 4-hour drive. I think it'll be a wonderful new start for all of us. Well, my mother-in-law has turned this into a personal thing against her, that I'm taking her grandkids away from her, that I'm choosing alcohol over the family, etc. She rants about me all day and night on Facebook, telling everyone that I'm a nasty falling down drunk and all that. My husband is perfectly happy with our plan. He wants me to be happy and healthy so I can be a happy and healthy mom to our kids. But part of me really wonders if I'm just being stubborn. Am I the a-hole? You sound like you're a quiet drinker and one day just realized it became a problem. As you mentioned, your husband was surprised when you told him. There weren't drunken fits of rage. You were just drunk most of the time, which is a problem indeed. AA wasn't for you, but you didn't say, well, at least I tried and got back to drinking. No, you looked for something that actually did help. Listen to your guts. They do a very good job dealing with your mother-in-law too. You were not stubborn here. She was trying to control you. Turned out it was a bad idea, mother-in-law. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Hers is now a 4-hour drive to her grandchildren. Not the a-hole. You made some very smart decisions. Hug your husband. He is great. Agree 100%. That house comes with a lot of strings. What other ultimatums are they going to give you? I doubt it will stop there. Get free. I wouldn't want to live near someone who treated me like that. Having to see them all the time. Advice? Make sure your new home does not have a dedicated guest room. I got out of a lot of uncomfortable situations by not having a comfortable room for someone to show up and stay and tell me how to raise my kids, and decide to stay another week and get up early and rearrange my cupboards. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I'd never accept something like this with conditions, even if the conditions were reasonable, because they very well may be subject to change. Who knows if you have to go to AA will become other demands. Do what's best for you and your family.